Here's everything you need to know if you are considering buying the 4000D Airflow from Corsair. Oh, that's nice. Everything about this case, as you are about to see, is very high quality in terms of like the... That's a weird spot to... That's the thing about Corsair. First we'll unbox the box. Unbox the box. Is that even a sentence? Anyway, so this case is been very popular. It's kind of weird because it's been almost 3 years since it came out. I think the original release date is like September 2020. But still, if you go pretty much to any computer store website, Newegg, Amazon, or your local computer store, you will see this one is still one of the best-selling cases. So I've been interesting to see why. Now I've been working as a PC builder for the last 3 years in a local computer store, and I've built plenty of computers by now, including this case. I've built a few systems in the Corsair 4000D Airflow, the non-Airflow version, and yeah, the Airflow is pretty exceptional, but there's a few more stuff that I would like people to know before they buy the case. Over here I got in front of me the white version. Now, by the way, this video is not sponsored by any means. I bought this case completely out of my money, and the case will be actually used to replace the current case of one of my friends. One thing I like to do before I take the box, as you saw, I like to kinda take it upside down. Make sure to always take this annoying latches out, because it gets stuck like in the foam, and then you can take out the box and it's very annoying, especially if you ship a system in it and you try to take out the computer. It's also like heavier because all the components and stuff. So yeah, make sure to take the latches out like this. And before I touch it, because you can easily get electric static discharge and you can get zapped from it, what I used to do when I was building PCs and I didn't have like electric static wrist rest, I like to take something metal and then just touch the case or the foam. It discharges you and you don't get zapped. So that's a cool way, I guess, to discharge yourself. Oh, that's nice. Well, there's some cheap packaging for you. This case cost around $100, I think, like 105 maybe. As you were about to see, the build quality and everything around this case is very high quality in terms of the product itself. I mean, it's Corsair. Even like their most cheapest cases are one of the most quality cases I've seen out there. So it can be reasonable if they try to price it more aggressively to appeal more people, so they can chip on the packaging. Like this is one of the, it's not even like soft at all. It's just hard, and it completely like broke. Like as soon as I took it out, I don't know if it like maybe got a hit in shipping. Like I didn't apply any force whatsoever. I just turned it around and it just broke. So that's a bit concerning, but that's what you get, I guess. It's not an expensive case. It's a budget case. $100 for a case, still considered a budget in my eyes, at least. I like to take the part with the fit first, because then I can open this and just flip it. Every time I build a computer, in this case, I always been mad about this. This is like a whole book of pretty much nothing. Like there's some stuff that will help you, but yeah, it's basically pretty much like take the side panel off, put your power supply, put your motherboard, and this is a waste of like trees and stuff maybe put a QR code or something and do it like Arctic does it with their products. Just put a QR code on the box and you can scan it with the phone and see the manual on your phone, and that way we can save a lot more trees. So anyway, let's flip it out. It looked like it arrived in one piece. Like again, the chip packaging, I really didn't expect it. I did a review on the Asus GT301 and I showed the packaging there, which also wasn't really great, but it still was better from this. And that case is also around $100, but I think this case, in my opinion at least, is a bit better than the Asus GT301. But yeah, that's the kind of thing you get, like with products. You can, you know, spend your money on the product, I guess, and get good quality, or yeah, or cheap out on the packaging. So it kind of depends on you. Like if you're, I don't know, if you buy the computer like pre-assembled and you ship it with components inside, it's something to consider. Like make sure, watch videos about the case you want to buy. If you buy a pre-assembled computer, and make sure to see that the packaging is actually good and not like cheap packaging, because the odds that the computer will arrive broken are pretty high. So yeah, unless you're buying it just for the sake of like buying a case and build a computer yourself, like replacing your current case, not that big of a deal. It's also easier to RMA it, but imagine if they build a computer inside and you get it like with broken stuff or like bad packaging, and then you need to RMA the whole computer. Kind of sucks, you know. You already got the computer and you waited for it for so long, and you also paid for it a lot. So yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the design. So it looks awesome, to be honest. One of the reasons this case is so popular, it's because it looks really good. Okay, so as we can see, we have a tempered glass side panel. Not a big fan of those, but it does look beautiful. At the front we have this kind of like mesh grille front panel. It is made of steel, so it's not like a cheap plastic. You can open it up and reveal the front filter. I think, yeah, you have like clips here, and then you can take it out. It's very dense, so it also feels like it's made from high quality material. Again, everything about this case, as you're about to see, is very high quality in terms of like the material they use. So that's the thing about Corsair. Pretty much every case I ever dealt with, like building, like I said, even in the most cheapest cases from there, like the 100R for example, it's still very high quality material, down to the fans, to the like exterior buttons, everything. So in terms of like the front panel, if we are talking about buttons, so over here you have your power button, you have one USB type A port, a USB type C port, a combo microphone and headphone jack, and you also have a reset switch. And we will talk about this in a second, but the other side is just plain white metal side panel. At the top we have another filter, which this one I think it's magnetic. Let's take this tape out, and yeah, it's a pretty, also again you can right away, oh, please don't fall. You can right away feel the quality. It's not like a cheap mesh filter. You can also kind of see the design that I hope it can catch on the camera, but there is a very special design with like the way they printed made the filter, the mesh itself. It's like triangles. I don't know if it have some kind of a purpose or for it's like for just make a better design, I guess. But it does feel very high quality. And again, it's something that you will see throughout the case. I will say that a lot because it's really like you can get even like more expensive cases these days, and you will see that sometimes they will chip out on certain parts, like certain parts of the case. Like it's like a cheaper material, but in Corsair cases, from my experience, it's always high quality all around. So that's something that you will see a lot. At the bottom, we have another filter, a smaller one for the power supply, and over here also you can right away feel it's high quality one and not something cheap. It doesn't bend easily, like it's pretty robust, not something that you will break easily. In some cheap cases you can find this like very flimsy kind of like filters that they can't even hold in place, but here they it's also clipped, so once you put it, it stays in, it doesn't go out. A lot of cases have this like kind of weird things that hold it, you know, like when you have like a picture, like a frame picture, and you have like this kind of things that metal things that you bend in order to hold it, and then you kind of need to fight with it, and sometimes it falls off. But here it just straight up, you know, it's not gonna move unless you take the clip out and then unclip it, I guess. I really like what they did with the colors. You can see throughout the case, it's white, but you have the gray accents everywhere, even in the back, like PCI Express slots here. So it's also gray, not white. It's a nice addition. It really gives the case like a very special color scheme. The yellow kind of accents, some people like it, some people don't. I think actually it really looks nice. You have the yellow accents on the thumb screws, you have it on the Corsair logo here, on the mesh filter, and you also have the USB Type A port also colored in yellow. Okay, let's open it up. Now when I open a case with a tempered glass side panel, I always like to put the case on its side, like the other side, and then take the side panel off. And the reason why is a lot of times when I assemble computers and I try to take this the tempered glass side panel out when it's standing, it sometimes slips and you can accidentally break the side panel. It happened to me one time, and since then someone taught me to always do it this way, and it's way more secure. I think, oh, this one, yeah, the side panel, it doesn't slide out. So this is actually pretty thoughtful, because what I just mentioned, if it slides, you have the risk of it falling out, but here it clips. So in order to take this out, you can see you have this like small pieces of metal. So after you unscrew it, you need to push it out like this. So it doesn't slide to the outside like that. You need to push it out. And as you were about to see, it holds in place. There's like a button and a clips, and then it goes in. So I'll show you. be very careful. I like to put it right away in the box between the two foam pieces, so like this. That way I can make sure it won't, you know, someone, when I worked in the store in the lab, you know, there's people going around and someone can accidentally like push it or something, and then it falls and breaks. So that way I know it's secured and nothing will happen to it. And over here you can see the thing that I talked about with, like, you have like this hole and it's like a clipped, the side panel itself. You can see you have like this kind of buttons here, so it clips right inside here, and then it holds securely and not sliding out like a lot of cases. You will see the panel is sliding and it's very loose. So again, it's something that you can really appreciate. The thought about this kind of stuff really make the case appealing for someone who wants to make sure it will long last and will be secure to build in. The other side, so again, I like to flip it on the side. Let's undo the thumb screws. And then over here it's the same kind of action. Instead of like, it doesn't slide out, it just, you need to pop it. So it goes like that. And over here you can also see the same kind of like buttons, goes inside like a clip and it secures inside. Okay, so something I want to mention about the interior design. I really like the kind of like accent they did here with the logo. So you have the Corsair logo right over here, and you have like the 4000D. I don't know if you can see it, but you have the 4000D logo over there as well. It really gives the case a prestige look, and one thing I can notice straight away, even with the side panels off and the front panel is also off, the case have barely any flex. So like it's sturdy as hell. Like again, the build quality is just amazing. Right from the, like over here where the rear fan is, everything is just super robust. The motherboard tray, it's a bit flimsy, but way better than any other case I've seen in this kind of price point. By the way, over here, the way the front panel pops off is also with the same kind of mechanism with the buttons, and then you have the this kind of like clipped mechanism goes in, it just stays secure. Yeah, it's super robust. And again, that's something really to appreciate. You really feel like the high quality of the materials they use. Even the finish is also very nice. It's kind of like this matte finish, coated paint. Yeah, it's white, it can get scratched and dirty, but I rather have something that gets dirty and really high quality, really robust. Because let's be honest, like in a month or two, the case will probably get dusted anyway. I really rather have a more robust and high quality case than a pretty one. So we'll go to the back first. There's a couple of things I want to show you here. Okay, so first of all, as you can see, most of the disassembly I did so far was without any tools, and the theme keeps going. Also over here you have the SSD trays, also with thumb screws. You can just take them out like that. You don't need any Phillips screw or whatever. Of course you will need it when you mount an SSD, but I guess there is a limit on how much toolless you can get when you build a PC, but it's a nice touch, you know, that they keep the theme. Even here the screws are color-coded with like yellow accents. Also keeps the whole theme consistent. It's also really nice. Over here we have the Velcro, which holds the pre-assembled front panel cables, and some things to pay attention here. So of course you have the USB Type A, USB 3 Type A connector to your motherboard, and that's something that I dislike about this case, because I would rather, like, if I need to plug a cable to my motherboard, I would rather to have at least two USB 3.0s and not only one. And like, yeah, you got the USBs in the motherboard, but it feels like they kind of cheaped on this aspect, maybe in order to make it more price friendly, maybe like something about the design. I don't know the reason why, but it's pretty much the single case I can think about that you need to plug a USB 3.0 header to the motherboard and you get only one USB 3.0, which it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. You can always use a USB hub, I guess, or use the USB ports at the back of your motherboard. The USB Type-C connector over here, you really need to pay attention. The motherboard has a USB Type-C connector because it's very different from the USB 3.0 connector. Not all motherboards have this, so if your motherboard doesn't have this, you can plug it in and this USB Type-C won't work. So make sure. I'll put maybe a picture here. You can see how it looks on a motherboard. Most modern motherboards these days already have it. I think since like last year, companies realized that more and more cases are shipped with Type-C ports at the front, so they include this, but it used to be in the past only like high-end like Z motherboards, Z chipset motherboards, or X if you're going with AMD, X chipset motherboards used to have this connector, so something to pay attention. You have the connector for your front audio jack, the combo jack we have here, and you also have the front panel. You know, you have the power switch, which goes to the motherboard, power LED. So this power button lights in white when you plug it in, so you can see if the computer is turned on or not. And you also have the reset switch connector. Other than that, we have two 3.5-inch hard drive bays, which are toolless. Over here you also have like this kind of like clipped system, button system, so you can take a hard drive, just put it in, it's completely toolless, and then you can slide it in, and you have two spots for that. This is the part that it does feel a little bit cheap, even cheaper than some cases I've seen at this price point, but I guess you have to chip in some parts at this price point, because otherwise the case would be like $1,000 or whatever. But it's nice for them to think about where to chip out, because to be honest, we're not using 3.5-inch hard drives these days anymore. Some people do, but most of us just use you know, NVMe SSDs that goes directly to the motherboard, maybe a couple of like 2.5-inch SSDs. You can also screw 2.5-inch SSDs over here. It's okay to chip out in this kind of stuff. I really appreciate the thought about it, and not chipping out in like build quality or other stuff. So I guess that's okay. Let's see if the hard drive bay is removable. Of course, you can see you have plenty of room for the power supply over here, but if you want to get more room for your cables, or maybe get like a bigger power supply, it's important to make sure that the hard drive bay is removable. From what I can see, I'm not sure if it's removable, but let's see. We have like a piece of foam here, which this is actually a nice foam. not like the one that we broke earlier, but yeah, I don't think it's removable. I can see it's holding with like clips here, and you have place for screws. Oh, there it is. Okay, that's a weird spot to. Okay, so you have a couple of thumb screws right here. You can take them out, and we can not only remove the hard drive bay, but we can also position it in different places. You have 3 different places you can put it. If you do want to keep your hard drive bay and put a bigger power supply, Corsair of course thought about it, and you can slide it a bit further away, just like so. It's completely toolless, so you just put it here, you screw the thumb screws, and you're good to go. So far so good, easy. The hard drive cage also feels overall with like the high quality with all the other parts of the case. I have a bit of Okay, so let me actually bring the camera close. I hope you can see this. Yeah, it's pretty obvious, but there's a factory defect here. It's like, it's not a scratch, but it's like a bump, maybe like a color, you know, overspray or overcoat or whatever, but it's pretty obvious. I'm happy it's here and it's not something like in the front, so it's not that big of a deal, but yeah. Also, there's also like a scratch here. Okay, the case is completely new. It's the first time I'm seeing it, so yeah, it is a bit of a bummer, but I'm happy it's in the back and not in the front, so not that big of a deal. Also a nice touch, you can see there are cutouts over here at the top, so you can easily pass through cables. They're pretty big, pretty spacious. A lot of room to work with, and they didn't chip out on this because you can see you have a spot here, you have a spot here, you have like 4 different spots to route your cables, and that's something that Corsair always cared about. Also another thing, as you can see, there's plenty of like space for the cables. Even though the side panel doesn't have like a bump, some cases do have like a bump for the cables that they stick out. So over here they accommodate that by having the whole motherboard tray just a bit more pushed in. So you'll have way more room for cable room. You won't have any problems closing the side panel. Another thing to pay attention, over here at the bottom where the power supply mounts, you can see there's like this little rubber grommets, so they help to damp the noise the power supply makes, and it's also a very nice touch. The one area where you will have a bit of a problem with noise is the hard drive bays. They don't have any grommets or any rubber to dampen the sound. As you can see, the case comes pre-assembled with 2 fans. They're not RGB, but they are very high quality fans. You can straight away like feel it. It's not your like cheap like $1 fan. And it's something that Corsair always did very good. Pretty much all of the products in terms of like radiators or coolers or cases, they always occupy them with high quality fans. This case, when it operates, even with those 2 fans alone, because of the front mesh panel, does let a lot of fresh air inside. Every time I turn on a system with this case, yeah, you can immediately feel the fresh air coming out of the case. A lot more higher than any other case in the market, so at least in this price point. But you can add more fans if you want. Again, that's something that if they put more fans in the case, they will have to charge you more. And it kind of makes sense because a lot of people these days, they use radiators, so maybe they want to mount the radiator at the front and move one of the fans. They give you 2 fans to work with, 1 intake, 1 exhaust. It's okay. Again, the focus here is about the quality of the case and less about the value you're getting from the money, because Corsair always really focus on build quality. I rather have that, maybe save up some money and get extra fans. It's totally okay. By the way, if we're talking about radiators, something here to also pay attention. If you can see, there's like a piece of plastic here. The whole frame is metal. It's made out of steel, but this piece is plastic, and you can actually, let me do this in a way that you will be able to see, but you can pop this out. Let me do that without breaking it. Everything here. Oh, okay, let's go. Okay, so the reason why you can remove this, and let's pretend I didn't move the hard drive cage here. You can mount, like if you mount like a water cool radiator, you'll need more space because you have the radiator and you also have fans on it. So take this width and just double it. And if you have like a triple rad, then you will need more space at the bottom. So that's why you can remove this plastic piece. If you're not doing that, then you can just leave it there and it's part of the design. It's a nice touch, but the problem, as you can see, and not intentionally, I didn't even think about it, but if you put the hard drive cage at the most far point from the power supply, then it's kind of pointless. So you will need to find like a middle spot, I guess, for the hard drive cage, or just remove it completely. Something to consider. Also here there's like a cutout to route your cables, and this piece of shroud is actually you can move it to a bit further away. So let's say if you have a big motherboard in the case, and you don't want your cables kind of get stuck over here. So what you can do, you have a small screw over here. Let's undo that. And after you took out this screw, you can slide it out. You can slide it out and just move it a bit further away, like so. And you can just put the screw back in. And that way you have more space for your cables here if you put a bigger motherboard over here. Now another beautiful thing to notice here, that you can imagine if you put the front radiator here, it won't get stuck in this piece because Corsair did it in a way that it's kind of bumped. It's not perfectly square, so it won't get stuck in a fans or radiator if it's in the front. You know, it's little things like that where they think about everything and not just, you know, manufacture a case and that looks beautiful and like have good build quality and good materials, but it's those little compatibility things with certain components in the system. Corsair always did really great job with those kind of things to think about pretty much everything. So this is also the reason why I wanted to kind of showcase this case and talk about it, and also the reason why it makes it so popular. Okay, so let's talk about dimensions and compatibility. So in terms of motherboard, you can put up to even extended like big ATX motherboards in here, so you won't have any problem with that. We talked about the fans. You can put 3 in the front. You also have at the top a place for another 3 120mm fans or 140mm fans. That's why you have the double cutouts over here. Something I always look for when I see a mid-tower case with space for 3 fans at the top is to make sure that the cables, the front panel cables, won't get stuck here in the fans. It looks like there is enough clearance. It's something always to pay attention, because I saw a lot of cases that have space for 3 fans, and then because the cables are so thick, you can't really actually put 3 fans or like a triple radiator at the top. So yeah, over here it looks okay. Yeah, it's on the limit where it might not if you put a triple rad here at the top, especially if you go with like Arctic cooling triple rads. The freezer 360, it's pretty chunky and big, so a lot of times it can get stuck. But if you want to make sure it will fit, just get a 240 radiator or just mount it on the front and you should be fine. In terms of graphic card length support, so I have my trusty IKEA meter over here. If I measure the space, let's say I'm putting a radiator in the front, so I'll have around 34, maybe 35 centimeters. And if I'm not putting a radiator, so it's 37 or 38 centimeters. Also depends on the thickness of your radiator, but it should be okay. It should be enough for pretty much any modern graphic card these days, so no problems there. Let's take a measurement from the motherboard tray to the side panel in terms of coolers. So you have around 17 centimeters, which is a lot. I don't know a lot of air coolers that get up to 17 centimeters, so this one is also okay. In terms of width of the case, so let's measure this out. It's 22 centimeters in width, and our height is 46 centimeters, but if you put this case under the desk or something, you need to pay attention that USB ports are at the top, and the power button, it's not in the front. Something to consider over there. And the length of the case is 44 centimeters. So it's not big, but it's also not that small. Mid-tower case, we have pretty average dimensions for mid-tower. Another thing, also, you can vertical mount your GPU over here. You can see there are cutouts for Corsair sell this separately. GPU riser mount to put your GPU vertically. I wouldn't recommend to do this on this case because you have a tempered glass side panel and the fans don't have space to draw fresh air, so it can suffocate your GPU. Not a big deal, you can do that, but it will affect temperatures on your GPU, so I would recommend to put it horizontally and not vertically. Another cool feature they use here, it's a bit hard to see, but the motherboard standoffs, the center standoff is a bumped one, so when you put your motherboard in, you don't have to apply force in order to screw it. You can just put it, and the bumped standoff will just hold your motherboard while you screw it. Another cool feature in order to make your life easier as a PC builder. Not a lot of cases have this, unfortunately. Not a lot of time you need to force your motherboard in order to screw it, so yeah, it's a nice touch. I think for the case itself, it's pretty much it. One last thing to talk about before we finish is the included accessories. So we have a small box that came in one of the hard drive bays. And let's see what we have here. Okay, so it looks like we have extra velcros, we have extra zip ties, plenty of them to be honest. That's actually pretty cool. Usually some cases are chipping out on on zip ties, so you have plenty here. You have extra standoffs if you put, I guess, a very big motherboard in here. You have some washers, which are important to use on, especially on high-end motherboards. They don't always have protection for the CPU cooler mount. So you can use those. They're made out of kind of like this steel or like hard plastic. And you have a bunch of different screws. You have screws for your fans, for your motherboard screws. You have screws for your installing hard drives, and you also have extra 2 thumb screws in case you lose one of them. And that's pretty much it, I think. I hope I covered it all. In my opinion, it does deserve the spot being one of the best selling cases in the last 3 years since it came out. Again, the focus here is high quality material, build quality, very robust build quality. The thought about the little things with compatibility with certain components makes this case a great choice for pretty much wide variety of systems you can build in it, and that's what makes it very popular. Now, if you have any questions, if you need further advice, feel free to write in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye bye. Now when I open a case with a tempered glass, now when I open